Alright, ladies and gentlemen, Trackmania Grand League Season 2 has almost come to an end, and the last thing to be done was the so-called Combine, which is a match that the bottom 8 of the TMGL after the group stage and the top 8 of the Open Grand League are going to compete in together against each other to win or lose their spot in the Trackmania Grand League for Season 3. And I have played in this competition as well, as my group stage performance was rather terrible, and I have gotten into this Combine match with 4 points to begin with. The Combine is split into 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, the 14th and 15th of November 2020, and the Combine is split into 4 different disciplines that are going to be played out, and depending on your position within these disciplines, you will be granted points for the overall standing. And there is a possibility that 2 Trackmania Grand League players lose their spot and will get exchanged with the best 2 players from the Open League, or the same happens but with only 1 player, or no one drops out and nobody goes in. That's also a possibility. So we're gonna go into the first discipline, which is Knockout. In the Knockout discipline, we're gonna play 5 maps, and on every map we play 3 rounds each. You basically can't get last. If you get last, you're out. All the drivers start at the same time, and if you place last, you are out. That's basically how it goes. So without further ado, we're gonna begin. And the first map is Circles, which was a map built by Link, who is in fact also competing in the Combine. And we are gonna begin right here. So this is a recording I've done while I played myself, and in this analysis we're just gonna watch the whole thing and I'll give you a couple of thoughts. So we're waiting and waiting and waiting, and after the warm-up it goes live. Dib Jordan, thank you for the 4 months of Prime Gaming. They actually changed the whole thing. That's amazing. So we play 2 laps, by the way. Normally in the Trackmania Grand League you play 6 laps, but now in the Combine, or at least in the Knockout format, you play 2 laps, sorry. So funnily enough, we had some technical problems here for Tween, who was stuck in spectator mode for some reason. So Tween was actually unable to play. So there was a little bit of a break before going live. So a little bit of extra time for me. The group stage mainly didn't go that well for me because I was moving to a new apartment. I had lots of other things to take care of, personal problems as well, that kind of held me back from keeping my head cool and didn't leave me with lots of time to practice. So unfortunately the result in the group stage was not as expected, and I finished 15th in the group stage, which was, yeah, really far from what I wanted to achieve at the end. So I ended up in the Combine, and for the Combine I have practiced for like a good week on the 6 maps that have been in this map pool to make sure that I remain in the Grand League and keep my spot for Season 3, because that is obviously an important thing as well for me. And finally we go live with the first round on Circles. So every driver begins at the same time, and the way I play is that I usually just turn the interface off. I don't really want to be bothered with extra information on the screen. The only information that's constantly on the car is your position. As you can see on the top, on the back of the car, it says my trigram, RIO, and of course the position, which changes and updates at every checkpoint. And that's basically all there is, right? That's all there is. So I was driving here, currently sitting on 7th place, and on this map on Circles, I honestly felt like being kind of an average player, I wasn't particularly good at this map. As in, I didn't excel with the fastest times, but I was consistent on this. And that at least gave me the assurance that I could survive until the, until the last rounds in the knockout. Because, once again, the only goal for this mode is to not get last. So, it doesn't matter if you get 7th, 13th, 1st, or whatever. As long as you don't get last, it doesn't matter at all. And that is where my my consistency can shine through more rather than raw speed. So we're now finding ourselves in lap 2, and as you can see at every checkpoint the positions are rotating. At every checkpoint it's a new position, so you knew the fight was close and very tight. Not the greatest ice section here. Could have gone a bit higher with less of a steering angle. That's one of the things that you have to keep an eye out on for the ice bowl that you drive through. But yeah, 8th place so far, and that's, midfield, exactly what I kind of expected to drive on this map. So just gonna keep going and survive. That's everything that was kind of in my mind at this point. So this map is actually, in my opinion, the easiest one out of the map pool. The easiest map out of the 6. Of course, still difficult. We are in the Trackmania Grand League, so the maps ain't a piece of cake, but in comparison to the other maps, this one is the easiest one and the map that I think delivered the closest races, or one of the closest races, in the group stage. So at this point, you sadly can't see it that well due to the overlay, but in the bottom left it said Tialik is out. So Tialik for Team Outer World has gotten last, 16th place, and he is therefore out of the knockout. So we continue with 15 players. Tialik is out and will score, I think, 1 point for the overall result, for the overall combined standing. Is it possible to turn off the position on your own car? No. And I have to say that bothers me a lot, because I constantly get distracted by my position, and even when I try not to look at the position, it's still always in the corner of my eye, sort of. I'm not sure if that's kind of understandable, but it's constantly in my vision. Even if I don't look at it, I can kind of see what number it is, judging by the shape of the number, so I wish you could turn it off, because I think I personally don't benefit from this at all. In fact, it makes me worse. So I would love to disable it, but I think that is not going to be a thing. Marius with the raid. GG in the cup. Thank you for the raid, man. So yeah, this one right here, going into lap number 2. It's a pretty like one of the hardest things about this map is actually the transition into the left-hander after multi-lap, after start finish. That is something that I used to struggle with. But then with some extra practice, I did actually get better at handling that end. So yeah, I'm not sure if you could maybe block the number. You could maybe, yeah, play around with the car skin, and I don't know, at the spot where the number is displayed, you have, I don't know, something like a really bright color or something, but I don't know. And of course, every TMGL map has an identity, and an identity refers to a part of the map that sticks out by being particularly difficult or by standing out visually. And on this map, as the name kinda suggests, it is the part with the circles. Yannick's went out in this round. He places 15th in the knockout. And that was good for me, because Yannick's was actually one of my direct opponents. Yannick's, of course, a player from the Trackmania Grand League who placed 14th in the group stage, and I placed 15th. So in order to maintain my position in the Grand League, it was important that I stay ahead of Yannick's. And of course also ahead of other Grand League players, like Matt or whatever. So that was very important. So for me, it was already a very good start that Yannick's went out. Gigon, thank you for the 14 month of Twitch Prime, by the way. Thank you very, very much. Another question from chat. Was it hard to figure out all the new blocks and possible transitions and interactions in this game? Old Trackmania had very limited type of different blocks. Actually, a very good question. The good thing is that many blocks remained the same in their shape, and the physics were also the same, which meant that using the knowledge of physics, you could kind of just apply that to all the new blocks. What was difficult to learn, and I'm definitely not the only one with that, is of course ice. Ice being a new surface, that was really difficult to learn, and I find myself still being in a learning process, in fact, because ice is extremely complex, and I do believe that we haven't quite discovered everything about ice yet. So that is something that I think was really difficult for me. And then also stuff like reactor boost, the thing that you see here, the boost that either makes you stick to the ground or make you fly, float, glide, whatever. That's also something that I feel like has a lot more depth to it than we currently know. But generally I think the pure basic of Stadium remained very similar to what it was in the previous iterations of Stadium. So yeah, I'm really just constantly finding myself comfortably somewhere in the middle. Usually placing 7th, 8th, 6th, 9th, whatever. And in this round also Bren went out, who was 1 place ahead of Yannick, so 2 places ahead of me. And that's also good, you know? Usually I prevail in knockout formats. I do play a lot of knockout events, and I have played a lot of knockout events in my career. Either casual ones or more competitive ones, like the True Talent Cup. And I usually do pretty well in knockout formats, which obviously was good for me, because I could get a lot of points and possibly secure my position in the Grand League by just getting a good amount of points in the knockout here in the Combine. But on the other hand, it also was a bit of extra pressure, because I knew this was one of my better modes, and if I don't do well in this mode, then I will have to push even harder in my quote-unquote worse modes. So doing well in the knockout was important to me, and so far I'm in. Going into the next map, which was Halfpipe, built by Kisla, a map that was played in the first 3 steps of the Trackmania Grand League Season 2 group stage. And this map was also an alright one for me. I didn't particularly excel on this one either, but I could handle it consistently. And some of the harder bits, for example the dirt that you see here in the mid part, I usually always did well on it. But then of course the identity is another thing, and as the name suggests, Halfpipe has something to do with halfpipes. We're gonna find out soon. But first, let's go into round and lap number 1. There are no buggy curbs anymore. True. It's good that the good old Randstein has been removed in the new Trackmania. That's a blessing. Without the Randstein, you really see that the general playstyle in Trackmania, in the new Trackmania, has increased a lot, because players can now risk much more without fearing to get launched into outer space from the Randstein. So that is a good thing. Redwood70, thank you for the second month of Twitch Prime, by the way. And for those who are wondering, Randstein is indeed the correct terminology in the Trackmania vocabulary book. It's not because I don't know the word for it or anything. It is actually, for some reason, the word that has kind of caught the most attention in Trackmania lingo. So after lap 1, I found myself on in position 4, which is actually pretty good for me. So I knew that just safing it and bringing it home would definitely bring me one round further. Go nice and tight on the dirt. A little wonky here. These transitions can be a little annoying, because once you hit one of these edges, then you can very well just get flung out of the track and you're out. So I tried to be a bit more conservative there. And as you can see, my conservative driving did push me down to 5th. Bit of a messed up gear, but yeah, I did gain some positions again. Nice no slide on the dirt, and even got into 5th gear after that section, going into the drift. Also nice time gain there. And here we have the half pipes. Very important that you don't jump too low, because if you clip one of the borders, then you will be issued the acceleration penalty, which makes it impossible for you to pass the upcoming jumps, and that's of course not what you want. In this round, Massa went out, which was actually a surprise to me because the camera was following Matt there. So I first thought that Matt was out, but then it said that Massa was out. So I don't know what happened to Massa there, but he died. And we continue into the next round. Riolo streaming? Yes, dude. Hello. Oh, damn. It's so weird. It's so weird to see Prime Gaming now, because it always said Twitch Prime even after they renamed it in the chat. And now it actually says Prime Gaming. Well, here we fucking go. Chris Birdie, thank you for the 6-month streak. Subscribing for 6 months in a row. Thank you, Chris. And Gnodo, brand new Prime Gaming sub. Thank you for the support, man. Enjoy the emotes. And thank you for supporting what I do. So a good start here for me. In fact, I was first, which was a pleasant surprise. Jumps with lots of gas releases in the air. You can't full speed them. But first place for me. And at this point I knew I was probably gonna lose my first place because I didn't land smoothly in the grass slope. It was pretty tricky because you had to jump high enough and then also release. So I was in a battle here against someone. I wasn't quite sure who I was facing, but it was always second, first, I don't know. Players who have been exceptionally fast on this map were Scrappy and Mada, so probably was one of those two players. and it was Mada. If you paid attention to my HUD just appearing for a second, then you saw AR Mada on first place, who was of course a player that everyone was kind of cheering for to make it into the Grand League because of his very good performance in the Open Grand League. So I was still on first, and I was kind of hoping to bring it home, but then one safe jump after another, and they made me lose a lot of speed. As you can see, I went to Mars and back. So at the end, I got pushed down to third place with almost 1 second of a gap down to Mada. So Mada winning the round in front of Evon, and this time Matt went out, the Brazilian for Space Station Gaming. Didn't make it, and placed, what is this, 12th or something on the knockout. So one more round in halfpipe, and then we go to the next map. Hello Jetix, and hello Paynal. Good evening. So getting a good position actually gave me some good confidence for this map. As I said, I knew that I was okay on this map. I was always saving it on the identity on the half pipes because there's a high risk that, you know, one little blunder could potentially ruin your race. And for me, it wasn't really worth the risk. This was really close, by the way. Also a little hit. Slightly unfortunate blunder. Stayed in lower gear as well in the dirt. Ideally, you want to keep upper gear at that point. But it's okay. Gotta keep going. And take the jumps. Hello there, Nats. Hello, Hardcore. Thanks, man. Lap 2. 9th place. This was a little bit of a, you know, not so comfortable situation. Because I think at this point, I didn't know how many players were still left. So I was sitting here on 10th place and I was wondering how many players are actually still in. And would I be out with 10th place? I was kind of questioning that because I wasn't sure at this point. So I was pretty happy to see the 09 because that meant I was definitely not last. So at this point I was just kind of hoping to keep that 9th place. Bit wonky here again. Very risky part, as I said. But I got into upper gear on the dirt. You can actually hold it even through this left turn, but I never really got it. It's extremely difficult, but there is actually a way that you can keep the gear completely. But I haven't gotten it here. So going into the identity on 9th place, and this looked okay enough to keep my spot, and it was indeed. So I was 9th in this round, a little bit slower, but at the end that was enough to survive. Cap went out. Cap also player for or from the Open League, and went out here in the last round of halfpipe, and that is going to bring us to the next map. So far, so good here for me. And my goal, of course, after Yannick's, Bren and Matt, my direct opponents in the scoreboard went out, my goal was to get as far as possible, to get myself a bit of an upper edge. Coming on to the next map, we have Semiramis. map name that confuses me to this day. But yeah, 3 rounds on this one as well, with 2 laps each. And I think here I asked in the chat, yeah, I was typing, how many are still in? But I could have just done the math myself, because we played 6 rounds and we were starting with 16 players, so that's 16 minus 6. But in the heat of the situation, I was unable to math. So at this point, we were 10 points. 10 players. 10 players. Hey there, Yeet1. Nice name. So Semiramis was actually quite an interesting map for me, because I have played this map for like half an hour tops when it was played for the first time in the group stage, and I was actually able to place, I think, 7th or 8th in the step with barely any track knowledge. So of course that was something I couldn't rely on, that I couldn't rest on. So I did some extra practice and I felt okay on this map. It was a pretty difficult one for me, but I knew that if everything goes right, I could pop a pretty good time. In this left-hander, ideally you stay in 5th gear. In this run I did not manage to do that, so I shifted down to 4th, and that's not the greatest thing for the approach into the first jump. The identity on Semiramis are the 3 uphill jumps that you just saw, where it's very important to land as early as possible, maintain as much speed as you can to make the jumps in first place, and also have good enough of rotation, like enough rotation to make it without having to adjust your steering angle a lot. So in this round, lap 2, I was 8th, so my pace was definitely not sufficient, and I think I benefited from mistakes that happened from other players. I think that was the main reason. Because my run had a couple of not so good spots here. But 8th is enough. In this mode, it's about survival and about nothing else. This time around, I stayed in gear 5, which sent me farther than wanted. So all of this really didn't look that good. But at the end of the day, I did stay ahead of Link and Dark, who was the player to get 10th and therefore gets eliminated from the knockout. So Dark is out, I made it into the top 10, and we go into the next round. So on this map I was clearly behind the other players, even though I knew I knew how to drive the map fast, but I just didn't have the confidence to kind of hit those lines all the time, or I was kind of lacking the precision for it, because it is a rather precise map at the end of the day. So for example, in this part, look, I was sent from 1st to 9th immediately, because I just took that part super conservatively. So now I'm 9th, and I knew that I had to gain at least one guy. I had to pass at least one dude to stay alive. Good first jump, not so good second jump, flew way too far. Okay, third one, and I went up to 8th. So the 8th place seems to be my ace of spades here. But then again, surviving by a hair hanging on that thread is also sufficient to get far and be successful in a mode like Knockout. Nice consistency, yeah, thank you, Tromdan. I mean, I knew I could push harder, like a lot harder. I really didn't play extremely well, because I was really trying to build up on that consistency aspect rather than pushing unnecessarily. TTC experience really came into play here, yeah. For sure, for sure. Even went up to 6th place. This was close. I almost died here. Look how close that was. Have you seen how close I was with my back tire? Holy shit. So, interestingly enough, I got 5th. 1 second behind the winning player, Super CarlJr, and Link went out in this run. So I'm in for another one. We're still in the game here. EA Sports, it's in the game. Another one left to be survived here on Semiramis. So let's do it. Want to get close to the checkpoint here without hitting it. And then straighten out the car shortly. In case you were wondering why I do the wiggle on the grass, that is because when you shift up or down, then ideally you want your car to face straight. You don't want your car to be in a drift while your gear is changing. And that was exactly the case. You were in a left drift on the grass while your car was shifting into next gear. So what I did is to straighten out my car really shortly by counter steering and then snap back into the direction of the corner after my gear kicked in. It's not a huge time saver, it's not extremely important, but you know, I'll take every little speed and time I can gain, right? So 6th place here for me, 5th place even. A solid first lap. Knowing it was pretty close here, obviously. I could not afford the slightest mistake. Here you see it again. Snap right when the gear kicks in, right when you shift into 5th. This was extremely slow. For some reason I magically gained 1 position, but it was... You know, at this point I was like, oh no. Also there. Dangerous. Really close to the wall there, man. My drift lines were absolutely atrocious here. I don't know what the fuck I was drinking, but that was not good. Jumping too far. Too hefty of a back tire landing. This was okay. And it seems like I'm gonna survive another round of Semiramis. Didn't even pass the last jump. But I finished with 1 second of a deficit on P5. And Evon went out here. Lars Torio with the smiley face. Thank you for the 3 months of Prime Gaming. Yannick's got knocked out on 15th place. Also, good evening to Jibs FPS. So that is going to conclude Semiramis. And our next map is, I think, Bumpy Jumpy. And it is indeed Bumpy Jumpy. So on Bumpy Jumpy, I don't know what I was, feeling about Bumpy Jumpy. On the one hand, I knew that I also had an okay pace on Bumpy Jumpy, a bit similar like the previous map. But at certain spots of the map, I lost time for no reason. Particularly the ice in lap 2. But also on some other bits, I felt disadvantaged and I lost a lot of time, and that kind of fucked me up. But I knew that with consistency I could still go far, because at the end of the day, you could clearly see that in every round there was at least one big mistake by some player. And as long as that's not me, we're good. So let's go into the first round of Bumpy Jumpy. Starting off with an ice section here. You want to give it a small tap to the right to give it some rightward momentum as you go into the bowl. Then a dirt section, want to stay wide, as wide as possible. Also have to release gas a bit. So this was a good start, second place. All good for me so far. And this is exactly what I was talking about. I had the pace, but sometimes it just didn't work out for me. But yeah, so far so good. We have a freewheeling part where your engine gets cut off until you reach the next checkpoint. I managed to actually keep a lot of speed here. And pushed me up to second place, which is nice. And that's it. That is completely dead for me. I have, in fact, messed up something I usually don't fuck up. The jumps near the end are the identity on this one. The bumpy jumpy, the bumpy jumps. And I have, for some reason, decided to jump off way too early. And then I hit the barrier. And that was, of course, the instant death. And then after that, I died another time. So at this point I knew it was over. And it was set and game. Unless somebody crashed the same way I did in lap 2. So, you know, some players have the tendency to just hit the retire button and to DNF in situations like these. But, you know, clever as I am, an absolute 5-head with 500,000 IQ, I decided to keep going. Let's find out whether that paid off or not. Still on 7th. Still on 7th. And still on 7th. Out. That was it for me. I wrote an A in the chat to signalize that I was out. And it was unfortunate, because if you take a look at the scoreboard on the left, we had Super Karlouf, who made a mistake, who was like 5 seconds behind the leader. So if I didn't make that mistake, it would have been guaranteed still in. So that was on my end. I take the blame, that was my mistake. So I placed 7th place in the knockout phase of the combine. 3 disciplines are yet to come, and the next discipline that was also played on Saturday is a TMGL step, the Champions mode. The mode with the fantastic point loss system with 6 maps of 6 laps each, and this is what we're gonna look into next. Alright, so here we are with the second discipline of the Trackmania Grand League Season 2 Combine. It is the TMGL step, it is the Champions mode. This time all the players are going to play once again, so it doesn't matter whether you got knocked out or not. By the way, the winner of the knockout mode was Mada in front of Grenady. I actually don't remember who got 3rd, but that's the top 2 at least. But yeah, in the Champions mode, it is about playing 6 maps, and in the first 2 maps, you just collect points. Let me actually just play this back. You gain points depending on your position at the finish line. Then starting on map 3 and 4, if you place 9th or lower, you lose 50% of the points you have gained before. So that is a bit of an upset, but that's how it is. And then on map 5 and 6, you lose 100% of the points you have lost before. We're going into the first map. It is Paradise. And Paradise was a map I actually despised a lot. I hated it with a passion in the group stage, despite having done semi-decently in practice mode. I always managed to fuck up the identity and to just completely lose my marbles every time I played this map. So going into the Combine, I knew I had to learn the identity, which you're gonna see in a minute. During the group stage phases, there was a different strat, or I did a different strat to drive it, which at the end of the day was too inconsistent and also too slow on top of that. So 2 reasons why not to do that strat. So while preparing for the Combine, I have picked up a new line, the line that basically everyone else drove, and after some initial doubts I was able to learn it semi-decently, and now it was time to kind of prove that, to prove what I learned on this track. So map 1, 6 laps, you just gain points, and the way you drive the identity here, as you can see, you drive up the wall, slow down, and then use the brake to aggressively turn downwards. And as soon as you kind of hit the angle, you start to re-accelerate, start driving down the hill, down the ice hill, and continue your journey. That's basically how it works. So it's pretty finicky, it's not easy at all, but with some practice, after you kinda get the feel for it, it was kinda manageable. So pretty good start for me actually, on 3rd place after 1 lap. That is quite satisfactory here. And even up to 2nd, so I was definitely on a nice pace so far. Question from chat: why did most players agree on which maps to pick? I think there was some rule that only applied to the players who were at the top, like the best players, the players that got the most points from the group stage, and they could pick maps. I'm not 100% sure how it worked though. I mean, the map pick I think only applied to one of the modes, and for the other modes it was fixed right from the get-go. So lap number 2, a little bit wonky. You clearly saw how much I oversteered there. I was facing too much to the right, which didn't enable me to kind of re-accelerate properly, but it was good enough. And especially on an identity like this one, you really want to make sure that you don't die. Yeah. So we chillin' out here on 2nd place, which was exactly where I wanted to be. In fact, didn't even expect to be that far up, so pretty good beginning so far. What can possibly go wrong, am I right? So this part is pretty difficult here. You need to drift and remain over 200 kilometers an hour as you cross the checkpoint, because during that drift your engine is off. So in order to stay in 4th gear, which is very important for further speed development in the upcoming part, you need to stay under 200, which I managed to hit just by a hair. Also, look at this cool guy on the pillars. Hello, that's me. Fucking amazing. Look, 1st place, Riolu. Javolo. That's it, man. That's the game. I, in fact, led the race. And after this identity, I still led. And I still led. Look at that face. What a shithead. So, we in the lead. Rank Uno. Exactly where I belong. Right? And we're holding up strong. I have no idea who is behind me. And I have no idea by how much, but I'm first. I am on the pillars. My moment of glory. Wow. I don't even know what lap this is. But we doing good. Error. 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 Speed not sufficient. 194. Beep, 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 beep. Third gear detected. Beep, 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 beep. I was leading by 7/10 of a second over Mada, Dofold, Evon, Grenady, Bren, Super Carl, and so on and so forth. So my main opponents, Matt and Yannick's, very far behind. Bren, doing good, but I'm first. So I have dropped my gear. I dropped to third place, which is going to cost me a lot of speed. In fact, it can lose you up to half a second compared to a really nicely executed drift in fourth gear. But seems like I did not lose enough to drop 2 seconds. Never mind, I'm second. So it seems like I have single-handedly dropped 7/10 of a second in the last sector of the track. Which meant that Mada was in front now. But my pace was still good. So, you know, the battle for first, it's not over yet. 0.3 behind. All good. Yeah, it is known that Mada's identity is really fast. He showed it in the knockout as well. The knockout ended on Paradise, actually. Which is the reason why you haven't seen this map in the analysis so far, but in the knockout identity, Paradise was the last identity, the last map. And Mada had a very good strat. Because one thing about the identity is not only that you hit the angle and everything, but also to snap out of the ice slide as well as possible. Oh, first! Hello! Oh, second. That was good though. This one was nice. And you can kind of see. Let's actually go back by a tad. Take a look at how I snap out at the exit. And this is kind of what Mada is doing as well. So you come out of the ice slide. And in order to defreeze your tires faster after leaving the ice, you want to straighten out the car and then steer back into the original direction. It's a bit like the snap you saw on Semiramis on the grass. Similar move, except that here the gear is not the reason why you do this, but it's the grip. So it's a strat that you can use pretty much anywhere to defreeze your tires faster. So this is lap number, I don't know, 5 or 6. And we see Evon fighting. It's actually lap 6. So it's Evon in the lead at the moment, followed by me and most likely Mada right behind me. So it was an extremely fierce battle for first place here. Unfortunately, I dropped to third gear, which is going to cost me speed. And I knew at this point I'm probably going to drop to third, which in fact did not happen. So it's all going to be decided in the ending. That was neat. But I did get passed by Mada, and at the end of the day I got third on map 1. Avon winning with an 8:28.08, followed by Mada and myself. Grenady on 4th, also very nice. Bren on 5, Tween on 6, Carl on 7, and Masa on 8th place. So, very good beginning into this step for me, with an unexpectedly good result on Paradise. In fact, it was pretty close, if not even my PB on 6 laps. So I'm pretty happy about this. Very satisfying, very satisfying performance here. And with my 3rd place, I will be granted 12 points. You get 20 points for winning and 2 extra points for setting the fastest time. And going into map number 2, there is no chance of losing your points, but on map 3 you will start to lose points. Our second map is Starglide. And I hate to say it, but Starglide is another map that I didn't like. It's not like you know, some maps were fine, but there are also some maps that were in this map pack that I just couldn't handle, you know? And Starglide, in fact, was one of them. Starglide is a highly precise map, very fast, very taxing on the hands as well, because it mainly involves full steering, like full steering lock all the time. And the way I play Trackmania, the way I hold my controller, or the way that I press my analog stick down, is that I use a lot of force to kind of apply my movements to the analog stick. So at some points my hands or my thumb gets very tired. And on this map I noticed that after like 2 laps or 3. So this map was very taxing, and that is one of the reasons why I didn't enjoy it. The other reason is the identity. The identity on this one, you will see it shortly. It involves 2 of the new additions to Trackmania, Ice and Reactor Boost. And you have to use the Ice to slow down and to bring your car into a 90-degree or kind of 180-degree spin. And then the Reactor Boost will make your car shoot forward again to make a complete turnaround around the edge. And the stupid thing about this identity is speed management, angle management, and seemingly random exit speed, especially at the last one. So I could never really become friends with this one, and I honestly didn't expect a good result. I expected to get at least in the bottom half on this map. Luckily this map was 2nd and not 5th, where you lose 100% of your points. Luckily for me, this map was played 2nd. So we're just gonna go into this 6-lapper with little to no expectations. Yeah, this identity was actually built by a community member. In fact, most identities that were built or used in TMGL maps for the season were built by the community. And the maps around the community were built by specific hand-picked mappers from Nadeo. So, pretty wonky start. Wasn't exactly matching my pace. But the most important thing is the identity. 1, 2, this one was a bit shaky. Very far back. If you get too close to the back wall, then your reactor can do some really weird things, and then you lose control over your car, or you drop all your speed. But a surprisingly good first lap here, and I'm on P7. Hello group, we good, I hope. What about you? Good evening. So it seems like Bren was in the lead at this point. I had an alternative line for the left-hand dirt that I just passed. It was involving a no-slide. However, it was quite risky, and in the heat of situation I spontaneously decided to not do it and rather focus on freaking not dying in the identity. Massa now visible on the pillars. My man. And identity once again to the right. Slow down, hit the brake, turn the car, and then re-accelerate as soon as you get the reactor boost. This was an okay exit as well. You can get lots of more exit speed here, but it's okay. Survival definitely was more important to me on this map. And so far it actually paid off. I'm 6th at the moment, and that was a very pleasant surprise to me. Yeah, Krupp, I think you should get some professional help. Get that checked up from a doc. Get well soon, Krupp. Damn, dude. Poor Krupp. Alright. Identity. Once again. Check. Another one. Check. Very big exit speed. And I was really afraid that at this point I was gonna die. I was so sure that I was gonna die here. Look how close this was. I had so much speed. And I was like, oh no, 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 no. And look, you can see. I hit with my ass. I hit with my back tires. But luckily, my car was kind enough to kind of not slow me down too much, except receive the acceleration penalty. So yeah, I did drop a position, but at least I didn't drop down to last. Because in the group stage I did actually manage to get pretty close to last place on this map, because I pretty much never managed to survive this shit. So 8th place so far. I'll take that with a big smile on my face. Only 2 seconds behind the leader, so it wasn't even that terrible of a pace. Given that in time attack, where I time attacked 2 laps on this map, I was partly 2 seconds behind after 2 laps, and now we're already in lap 4. This was nice. Here I made sure to slow down in time. Ideally, you want to get as far back as possible, because the farther back you glide, or the farther back you jump, the more you kinda glide, you know? When you get closer to the ground, then the reactor boost kind of makes you glide. When you get closer to the ground, it zoops you. And the farther you get back, the more you can zoop. And the more speed you can build up for the entire final stretch. Riolu, how do I get close to becoming as good as you? I mean, I play this game for 12.5 years, so you could start with that. Trackmania is a game that takes a lot of time to learn. It's an extremely complex, difficult game if you want to get somewhere to the top. Skill ceiling is very high. So if you want to get somewhere, if you want to improve, you need to sink in a lot of time. Lots of effort. Tears, sweat, and salt. That was another successful reactor boost, even with decent exit speed. So far, I was like, nah dude, this can't be real. I'm playing good on Starglide, what the fuck is happening? I went into this thinking, fuck, I'm getting it last, bro. And hello Renex, thank you for the 100 bits, man. You're gonna continue grinding the fall campaign. That's a start, yes. When I started with Trackmania, I also played the campaign, mainly. I kinda grew up learning the game in the campaign, learning all the little itsy bitsy tiny tricks to get faster, while of course also playing online, but I started doing time attacking pretty early. And I'm not saying that that's the way you should go, but for me personally that helped. So it seems like in this race I was actually kind of in a fight with 5th as well. Like, who would have thought? Like, look. This is lap 6. I actually fucking made it, man. I got passed by someone, but who gives a shit? Look at it. Seventh place at the end of Starglide, which is, in fact, another 6-lap personal best for me. I drove a 741, like a very low 741, and this was really better than my PB. My PB was a 742, I think, and I drove that, I believe, in the first week when this map came out. So, a very pleasant surprise for me. That is going to put me up to 5th place in the total scoreboard with 19 points. Evon leading in front of Link and Bren. And now we're going to come up to, yeah, one of the spiciest or spicier parts of the step. This is the point where players who place 9th or lower will lose 50% of the points they have gained beforehand. That is not so good. We are on Semiramis, and as you might have seen in the knockout, Semiramis is maybe not my best map overall, pace-wise, but I can shine through with consistency, and that was what I was trying. So I think we can skip the warm-up here. We're just gonna go and game. Okay. There it is. So, we're going live with map number 3 on Semiramis. I got all the Nadeo medals right now, but on most maps there's much room for improvement. Yeah, I mean, you can see this room for improvement and work with it, right? Try to put yourself some small goals to work towards, and then improve from there. You got a gift sub before you could manually resub, and then you just gift one yourself. PTR, what a legend. Thank you for the gifted sub to JJ Andrew. Another one joining the team. Thank you for the gift, Mr. PTR. So, lap number 1, of course, stacked field. Position changes at pretty much every checkpoint. Good speed here for me by staying in gear 5. Jump number 1, check. Jump number 2, check. Jump number 3, check. Small adjustment, small steering adjustment there, which was maybe unnecessary. But 8th place is exactly where I need to be in order not to lose my points. So we good. Once again you see the snap to take care of the gear. And yeah, so far all good in the hood. Massa leading, you see his visage on the pillar. This was extremely shit. I barely made the jumps because I was really off the good angle. And also a late release killing all of my exit speed. Unfortunate. Brent took over the lead. Brent's picture on the pillars is so cute. Little sunshine. I lost one position here. RIP. Oh, I'm back to 8th. If I lose one more position, RIP points. And that's not what we want. We don't want RIP points. Oh. As I say that, wall hit. Detected. Funnily enough, I'm still 8th. So I crashed, but I'm still gonna keep my points. Why am I crashing? Excitement. Oh, and another crash for Riolo. What a pisshead. Another one. And now I finally dropped to 11th place. So it is, of course, for the entertainment here. Entertainment value, point right, chart with upward trend. And at this point I was kind of losing it. Got a little out of focus because these mistakes really shouldn't have happened. Both mistakes were clearly avoidable. And at this point I was 2.23 seconds behind 8th place. And then I magically went from 11th to 9th. And I was like, what the fuck? What in the fuck is happening? So I knew, one more death at the identity and I'm gonna be in the green again. So let's just keep going. Very shaky in this turn. I generally hate jump drifts. And even, you know, I practiced this map and I did develop a nice feel for that jump drift, but it's always problematic either way. So very safe jumps, trying not to overshoot it too hard, but also not cut it super close. So I was like 2/10 off, and there you go. I went up to 8th again. What a roller coaster of events here for Mr. Streamer. But yeah, that was obviously a sign that it's still very close. And if I bonk one more time, then I'm definitely gonna F. So hopefully that's not happening. How long did you practice the 5 maps? Well, in fact it was 6 maps in the map pool. And I have started to seriously practice roughly 1 week before the Combine started. And I, of course, also worked with my knowledge I already had on these maps. So it's not like I've never seen these maps before. Yes. Want to talk about this, or should we just keep going? That was a certified bruh moment. Chonked it in lap 5. So yeah, that was really upsetting. And the reason why I didn't pass that second jump is because I jumped too far in the first one. Which, in effect, did not let me allow myself to, you know, angle up for the jump properly. Like, I jumped so far, I had no time to align. That was basically the reason. So I jumped too low, too flat, and I died. So at this point I was 3.6 seconds behind the leader, behind 8th I mean. And there was absolutely no way, even if all the planets align in one line, that I'm gonna get back to 8th place to keep my points. So that was unfortunate. Extremely unnecessary. I don't know what I was thinking there. That was very, very upsetting. And the 19 points that I accumulated on the first 2 maps will be split in half. And therefore leave me with 10, I think. So Grenady loses his points, Massa as well, Yannex, Dark, Mada, Matt and Dofault. So the important thing is that Yannex loses his points and Matt as well, because as I said, these players are the ones I need to keep behind me. But to get back to the practice thing, I of course played the maps in the group stage, so the knowledge I accumulated during the group stage was already quite helpful. But on the other hand, I acquired lots of new knowledge during the last week of practice too. So yeah, I couldn't give you like an amount of hours I spent on these maps, but probably 10-15 hours each map. So that was an unfortunate moment, but we're gonna get to a better map, which is Halfpipe. And on Halfpipe, I'm definitely looking to stay in the top 8 and to keep my points. So right now, the standings looking as follows. I'm on 9th with 14 points. Massa also 14 points, so it was basically tied for 8th. Bren is leading with 45 points. Very good step for Bren. Also very, very good step for Evon. Carl, Link, also in the 30-point range. Then we have Scrappy, Tween tied for 5th. Massa, Cap on 7 and Massa on 8th. So we're coming on to Halfpipe, which is map number 4. We're gonna skip the warm-up because nobody cares. And this map, as long as I save it, I mean, you can pretty much apply that to every map, but also on this one, I knew how to be consistent enough, so let's give it a whirl. Hello there, Lazarus. The air brake flaps look so funny. I mean, it's a cool little detail. I like what they did with the new stadium car to kind of add more detail to it. Even if it's just some small details like the LED brake lights or the lighting up brake... I don't know how you call it. The brake discs. Pretty cool. Yeah, good luck, Sir Lancelot. So, once again Halfpipe. Once again passing the dirt jumps. Getting out my nose slide. And then the identity. 1, chuck. 2, chuck. 3, chuck. 4, chuck. So pretty slow. Definitely went too high. Like two or three jumps were too high there. So I got pushed down to 10th place. But it's okay. A bad first lap doesn't kill it immediately. 10k points more for your second map request. Oh yeah, let's go, man. Hello there, Aspirin, and hello, Raven. So I'm 8th here at this point. I gained 1 position there on the transitional part. Gained another one here. So it must have been a super stacked playing field at this point. Constantly changing the position. By the way, at this dirt jump, as soon as you leave the ground, you need to have a minimum speed of 220 roughly. Sometimes you can make it with less speed, but you should normally be over 220. So at this point, I had 222. You land in the dirt slope, and then pass a set of jumps. Alternatively, you can go outside. There's an extra route next to the jumps, but ideally you don't want to take that. Are you excited about never having to play these maps ever again? The thing is, these maps might actually come back for the World Cup, which is another competition coming up next year. Because they're gonna reuse maps from the playoffs, the playoff map pack from TMGL Fall 2020 and TMGL Winter 2020 or 2021, or, you know, Season 3. Were those blockers at the half pipe before the combine? Yes. They were there. One interesting thing I noticed about World Cup is that you need to have played at least one OGL step to even have a chance at register for the World Cup. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? But hey, I'm 5th. Pretty cool. That was a nicely executed transitional section, plus dirt. So the pace was there. Yeah, the TMGL maps, I mean, obviously it's personal preference too. I personally don't like most of the maps, but I've gotten to, you know, learn them decently enough and drive well on them. First stupid thing that happened to me, by the way, here on Halfpipe is that I clipped the last one. Let's look at it again. And this little clip already gave me the acceleration penalty, which is absolutely stupid. So now I had no speed, and I dropped to 7th place. So I clipped ever so slightly, by a few millimeters, and I get the acceleration penalty. I hate it. It is so annoying. But yeah, about the maps, yes, I'm definitely sick of these maps. And I can't wait to take a break from seeing these maps after the analysis, but yeah, maps objectively are good. That's about it. At some point, you're sick of them. So we're in lap 4. 223 speed. We go up and make it. My favorite map in Combine? I would say it's actually Paradise. Probably weird for me to say, and in the beginning when the map pool was announced I was like, fuck, Paradise is in there. But at the end I think Paradise was one of my better maps. So, looking good here. Chilling on 5th place, in fact. So I got back pretty decently after the speed loss in the previous lap. And a 5th place is definitely more than sufficient. Scrappy was pretty much leading the entire race. Scrappy had an amazing pace on pretty much every map. And here we go again. Not only once did I get the acceleration penalty, but I in fact got it 2 times. Because why the fuck not? It is so dumb. Like, how is this a penalty? They really need to get rid of the penalty. It's so stupid. It punishes you for the wrong things. In Trackmania 2, or in Nations Forever, or in any other Trackmania stadium, you would not get a slowdown. But here, you get slowed down so much that you barely even pass the next one. And then I clipped the second one because I clipped the first one, and it's a snowball effect, and I got 2 acceleration penalties. Look how slow I am. I wasn't even sure if I was gonna make this one. So I dropped to 8th place. I had no speed at all. And the reason for that is because acceleration penalty. It's completely fair. You obviously wanted to wallbang. Ah. Unbelievable. It's in a precise game like Trackmania. I think a punishment like this is just bad. It brings the game out of balance and it punishes you for the wrong things. The acceleration penalty was brought into life to combat wallbangs, intentional, faster wallbangs in competitions, which you can also combat by just building better maps. But okay. And now we have this penalty, which ruined RPG in this new game, because many RPG maps are bumpy by nature and basically are the free invitation to 50,000 penalties per second. And it also fucks up other map styles like LOL maps and stuff, where sometimes you get weird landings that normally perfectly work, but now they don't anymore. And then you have things like these. It's really not cool, in my opinion. It's really, really not cool. And this 6-lapper made me realize how bad and how flawed the system really is. Luckily, it has been promised to us that they're gonna look into this after the Grand League season. Even though I think they should rather look into it after the fall 2020 season ends. Because otherwise it might negatively impact the solo standings. But yeah, it's not well made. Luxtoff, thank you for 4 months of Prime Gaming. So, we're coming to an end here, and I have finished on 7th place with a 7.5 second deficit, of which I think 4 seconds are just because of acceleration penalty. So I could have placed much better, but Scrappy wins in front of Default, Tween, Dark, Evon, Carl, Riolu and Bren. People who have lost their points are Link, Yannick's again, Massa again, Cap, Grenady, Mada, Tialik and Matt. So, I'm gonna keep my points and I'm gonna add some extra points to my account. So it goes from 14 to 21. So these are the standings after 4 maps. Bren still in the lead, Evon still on 2nd, Scrappy moved up to 3rd, so we have 3 TMGL players in the lead so far. Super CarlJr on 4th right now, the best OGL player in front of Tween, Link, Default and myself. So far, pretty good. Definitely satisfying. So at this point, there's a 6-minute break. So we're just gonna go straight to the race, which is gonna be map 5. Starting from map 5, we are gonna see a 100% time loss going for, point loss going from 9th down to last. And map 5 is Bumpy Jumpy. I made a bad experience on Bumpy Jumpy because I have gotten knocked out earlier on Bumpy Jumpy due to a not so good mistake. Are there even good mistakes? I don't know. Feel free to question that in the comment section, but yeah. Let's just go in and try to play it down with consistency. And yes, at this point I only had to beat Yannick's. He was my main opponent, of course also Matt. These are the 2 players I had to keep behind me in order to retain my spot in Season 3. And a Bumpy Jumpy, some risky parts in here. And only 11th place. But that's okay. Hey, Bumpy Jumpy. Okay. Making the jumps. This one was a little tricky, but first lap is in the backpack. And that's a wall hit already in lap 1, or rather in the beginning of lap 2. I got a no slide. Very nice. So this is definitely going on me. I somehow got a no slide. I even neoed. So I have no idea what went wrong. I put the blame on sausage blocks and their weird shape, but yeah, this already put me in a very bad spot, and I got pushed down to 12th place. Of course, I can still catch that up, but I crashed right before the ice section, where every kilometer an hour counts. So this was one of the worst places to crash. I dropped even one more position, down to 13th at this point, so this is ass. And stuff like this obviously frustrates, because it's a mistake that is of course avoidable, and getting into a drift should be an easy task for a professional video game racing player. But sometimes it actually decides to just work against your odds, and at this point it was kind of that, right? So I was behind. Let's just reset and get back. I gained 2 positions in the identity, up to 10th place. So it seems like he had a couple tree hitters. And here you can clearly see the difference. A flying lap with good speed. You exit the ice with more than 300, and in the lap where I bonked, I exit with 50 speed less. So quite a rough hit that I took there. But yeah, never give up. So let's just drive and hope that maybe some other players are gonna hit some more extra trees. Sounds, you know, mean, but that's the type of thing that goes through your head when you play. Because sometimes when your raw pace is insufficient, then of course mistakes from players in front are the saving grace for your race. That was a nice rhyme. So I just checked my HUD and I was like 1.2 seconds behind 8th. Now up to 9th. So I was sitting on the hot seat once again. Am I gonna stay in the top 8 or not? Which identity would you say was the easiest and the hardest one? Yeah, while we're looking at this one, I think Bumpy Jumpy was one of the easier ones. Maybe not the easiest, but an easier one. And a hard one. Pooh. Surely some of the reactor boost shenanigans. Cyclone was hard, yeah. Hard to say, hard to say. To be honest, I forgot most maps already. Semiramis was also easy. Hard to say. Yogo-san, raiding with a party of 6 people. Hell yeah. Thank you for raiding, Mr. Yogo. Flyback? Yeah, flyback was actually pretty hard, but doable. Oh, 8th! Look at this. I went up to 8th. Is this the step phase? Yes. We're looking at the step phase right now. So this is lap 4 or 5? So yeah, flyback, pretty gimmicky, but doable. Glacier hiking as well. Like, I personally found glacier hiking pretty easy, but if it goes wrong, it goes really wrong. Snow step, pretty easy. Tree jump, yeah, tree jump was kind of a hard one there. What do you think about making acceleration penalty dependent on a natural speed loss while wall touching greater than X? That's too much math, but I think you should just get rid of acceleration penalty entirely. And just, you know, make the car lose speed because you hit something and friction and everything comes into play, but not extra artificial acceleration penalty or speed loss. It seems like it's just not really possible to implement into the game properly. Alright, so I'm still 8th, and I saw that I had Massa behind me, and actually only by a hair. So the fight for 8th was between the two Germans here, between Massa and me. And I knew that Massa had a pretty sick pace on this as well. And I also didn't hit this very nicely. I was expecting to see the 9 on my car, and indeed it did happen here. So going into lap 6 into the second half, I am dropping down to 9th, and I have a fast player in front of me. I have Massa, who's probably trying to escape me here. So it's going to be a difficult task to beat Massa here. It is all going to come down to the end. I knew I had to push it. It was do or die, otherwise I'm going to lose everything. Went up to 8th. Good and flat jumps over there. Survived the last one. I still saw the 8 on my car. Put the interface on, and to my surprise, both me and Massa made it in, because unfortunately Evon dropped to 9th. Evon made a crucial mistake in the end, and he basically saved both Massa and me from losing our points. So shoutouts to Evon, but also RIP to Evon, because he was the one who lost the most points in this round. 47 minus points for Evon. So that sucks. Actually, Evon, what happened? Did you crash the tree or? But anyway, Grenady wins with a 7:24, 1 second ahead of Dark. So they're quite happy about their result. Tween in front of Scrappy, Cap, Bren, and then me and Massa also keep the points. Evon loses. Mada, Carl, Yannex, Dofold, Matt, Tialik, and Link losing all points and only get the points back that they win for their respective position. Wait, let's watch that clip.
And here we go, Riolo is already looking quite good here, actually closing in on Massa a little bit, but it's not enough yet. The gap is about 1/10 of a second between losing all your points and not losing it. And look who gets the low jump. Riolo is on his way to locking in 20.1 points for himself. It is not over yet to Massa wants. Down. It's neither of them because Airphone is giving away.
No!
And here we go, Riolo is already looking quite good here, actually.
Holy shit. You gotta be kidding. Way too much on the right. Man. Evon. Fuck, man. Shit. I mean, I would have been 8th if it wasn't for Evon. So I would have kept my points either way. So this was lucky for Massa. Holy shit, dude. What a battle, mate. Incredible. So, map 5 is coming to an end, and we have Bren leading the step still with a very, very good performance. Bren absolutely popping off. Look at his face on the pillar. He is happy. 59 points for Bren. 53 Scrappy. 47 Tween. Grenady, Mr. Steering Wheel on 32 points. 4th place. Dark, 30 points. Heavily benefited from map 5 as well. I'm on 6th with 28, Cap 22 and Massa with 18. And my main opponents, Yannick and Matt, with 4 and 3 points respectively. It's looking good for me. I beat out both of these in the knockout, and it seems like I'm also gonna beat them out on the last map, which is Circles. So the map order for the step here has been randomized. However, I feel like it's still rigged. Because for some reason, Circles, which is the easiest and the closest map, was last. So I don't know who PayPal'd €10 to Softy, but this can't be a coincidence that Circles was last. Unbelievable. So yeah, for me this was only semi-good because on Circles everyone was fast because it's the easiest map, and I knew that maybe with my consistency I could just barely make it in. Like, the pace was there on paper, but you know, doing it on paper and doing it in the live race, that's completely two different pair of shoes here. So yeah, the last final 6 laps here, and I have 28 points on the barbecue that I could lose here. Here we go. Catching the reactor boost here to make it end just before you reach the grass part. And look at that, Riolu on first place. Riolu on the pillar here. What a gaming adventure. Look at him. What a fantastic face. So, good start for me. Was nice. First again. Look. Wow. So yeah, pace was there. Good start for me. That was also a nice confidence boost for me. Because when you have a good start, then you're also motivated to fight for the top. Which, on the one hand, can make you take more risks. But on the other hand, it also gives you confidence, which is important. Because if you, I don't know, let's say you crash at the start, then it instantly fucks your mentality, you know? It fucks your mental game. So, it's pretty hard. Anyway. The identity is the part where I usually lose the most amount of time. However, my line also differs from what other people drive. I tend to go a little higher in the jumps to generate more speed. Which means that I catch up. So at the end, it's kind of a trade-off at that point. So I'm sitting on 3rd. And you know, at this point, I was super happy to be in 3rd, because either that meant that others already crashed, or that I'm really good. In the sense of I'm good, like I'm safe. But it's too early to call that in lap 2 anyway, so just wanna keep going here. Fifth. All good in the hood. So before entering the ice there, I neo slide. Because I need enough rotation to get into the ice slide. Because when you touch the reactor boost, ideally you want to be in an ice slide position, because that way you generate the most amount of speed. So 6th place right now. Easy going. But it's crunchy, you know, one little mistake and you can be out. Just the tiniest of touches and you can already be out of the whole picture. The pressure was immense. Let me tell you that. This was too high. Definitely some time loss here. And also this definitely could have been better. I did drop to 8th. But maybe I'm gonna catch up again. Yes, 7th. But it wasn't perfect, that's for sure. It wasn't perfect. So I'm on the hot seat now, ladies and gentlemen. Not anymore. I magically went from 5th, from 8th to 5th and back to 7th. So I don't know how close it was, but from an outside perspective, I would assume that everyone was like in a pack. Everyone was super tight together. Very, very close. And that was scary, you know? That was really scary and honestly a bit surprising. It was honestly a bit surprising because as anticipated, I knew people are gonna be, you know, fast because it's an easy map. But on the other hand, I didn't expect that many people to be this close. Yeah. So there were a few things about this sector here, the identity sector, and also this ice turn that I didn't really understand. Like this, for example, this was too wide. Little unfortunate. So this is, I think, lap 5 and I'm 5th. It is so freaking close, man. My heartbeat was probably at least 5,000 BPM. Not the greatest ice part here. Pretty low speed. At least that's what I felt like it was. But 6th. Still good. Numbers change in every turn. Yeah, like, you have to imagine how it is as a player to see the number change every time. It is an extra distraction, and this is what I talked about earlier. The number on the car, in my opinion, is more of a distraction rather than a help. It's not really helpful to me. What do you think? Was this clip A, good, B, bad, C, okay, D, uninstall? You are right. This is the acceleration penalty. Back at it, ladies and gentlemen. And just another time, Trackmania shows how great this system is. And I dropped to P10. I dropped to P10 because my back tire clipped the edge by like 5 nanometers. Obviously, that is a deserved acceleration penalty. Fuck you, Riolo. You deserve to absolutely lose everything here. So I'm on 9th place, the hot seat. I am 0.30 behind Grenady, who is sitting there on 8th. So I had to catch up 3/10, and I had Cap behind me as well. Cap, in fact, passed me here. So yeah, I had to beat out 2 players in the identity where I haven't been that fast anyway. Yeah. 2 tight drift here as well. No idea what I was thinking. So of course I get passed by Cap. So I knew I had to go all in. I had to risk it for the biscuit in order to secure my precious points. This wasn't that good. I clipped once again. No acceleration penalty, but I clipped. And then I died. Completely. And to top it off, the respawn was fucked as well. I didn't know where the respawn was. The respawn route. and I only later realized that there's the fucking booster on the left. So yeah, your boy Riolu. In fact, Grenady died as well. Yeah. So I probably would have been in the green if it wasn't for my mistake. I would have been in the green. Grenady was in the, you know, top 8. And then he dropped as well. So he died together with me. This was a huge rip for Germany. And yeah, you might ask yourself what happened. I didn't even risk it there. What happened is that I was in the wrong cam. My cam change button didn't put me to cam 2 but to cam 1 for some reason. And I got so confused that I forgot to turn. I was so confused. I was out of it completely. I was so struck by the fact that this happened that I couldn't focus on my driving anymore. And it eliminated my muscle memory as well. So, yeah, it feels amazing. It feels amazing to lose everything that you fought for, to lose 28 points. That would give you a really good result and possibly seal the deal for the qualification into Season 3. It sucks to lose it like this. And, you know, losing the points, but get 9th in the end, would have still been a lot better than crash and then get 14th. Because if you paid attention to how the combined system worked, depending on your final position at each discipline, you will be granted points. So if I were to place 9th in the step, I would get many points. But now I got 14th. Because I hit the checkpoint and then I didn't fucking know where to go. So, in my opinion, this is just shit. I mean, of course I made a mistake. But this just proves that the point loss system is, yeah, frustrating. At most. So yeah, this is also a wrong ranking, but you get the idea. So I got 14th in the step. And I luckily didn't let myself get, you know, fucked up too much about it, but it was obviously dampening the mood quite a bit. And it shouldn't have happened like this. And I think everyone who lost their points, for example Grenady or Bren led the entire step. I think Bren knows how I feel. It sucks. And it could have, like for both Bren and me, it could have been the easy snack for Season 3. But yeah, that's how it is. So yeah, that is going to conclude the Combine for Saturday. 2 more disciplines are coming up, and we're going to take a look at them soon. TM.